I would just like to take a moment, just a few moments, to briefly introduce Father Paul Masson. I know Paul will add to anything that I've left out, but Father Paul is originally from the great diocese of Erie, Pennsylvania, Western Pennsylvania, the town of Rouseville, which is near Oil City in Western Pennsylvania. And Father Paul grew up there and was a good high school football player. Could have had, perhaps a lengthy career in that, but he chose Maryknoll instead, and joined with Maryknoll, and then went on overseas training back in 1969, and was assigned to Chile, where he stayed for the next 20 plus years. After Father Paul was ordained in 72, he went back to Chile, and that was quite a mission experience there. Part of it was during the Salvador Allende years, those years of violence and oppression and torture. But Father Paul accompanied the people there, which was very much a blessing for them. And then following that, Father Paul was on our general council for 6 years, helping guide the society. And then after that, a time in Juarez, Mexico, being on mission there in that also violent city during some of those years, but helping with formation also. We had a formation house there. And then Father Paul spent 3 months in China, at least 3 months in China in that program with our China teachers and our men on mission, men and women in mission in Northeast China. And then Father Paul is back in Latin America now, in Bolivia, and has been there for a while. So that is, just a quick snapshot. But I will turn it over to Paul for the beginning and for your good work. So thank you very much for helping us.
We're so close to Christmas that this is a song about the child of the poor. And I'm helpless and hungry, lonely, afraid, wrapped in the chill of midwinter. Come now among us, born into poverty's embrace, new life for the world. Who is this who lives so lonely, sharing their sorrows, knowing their hunger? This is Christ revealed to the world in the eyes of a child of the poor. Bring all the thirsty, all who seek peace. Bring those with nothing to offer. Strengthen the feeble, say to the frightened heart, fear not, there is your God. Who is this who lives with the lonely, sharing their sorrow, knowing their hunger? This is Christ revealed to the world in the eyes of a child of the poor. I think it's very important to recognize that Pope Francis, I'll talk a lot about Pope Francis because he's changing our views of what mission is. And so first, what I would like to talk about is not only the Maryknoll Fathers and Brothers, but the Maryknoll presence here in Bolivia. Maryknoll first came here in 1940, I think it was 1942, 43. And we started also in Chile in 1943, when I was born. So right now we have in Cochabamba, Maryknoll lay missioners, the Maryknoll Fathers and Brothers, and also seminarian and brother candidates. And also when this disease ends, and we can have, we'll also have volunteers. As Paul mentioned, I'm actually from Rouseville, Pennsylvania, which was the site of the first Pennzoil refinery, and very close to where oil was discovered in the world, actually by drilling for production. And I don't think we realized how much harm that oil was going to do to our environment. I'm standing here um, with Dan Chapin. I don't know if you know Dan. Dan is a Maryknoll associate who is from upstate New York and has worked many years in Peru and is working here with us as a diocesan priest who is an associate at Maryknoll. And these are the beautiful people that help us in our work here in the center house. I actually live in another house, but I came to the center house because the internet's much better. I wanted to say that our work here in Bolivia, really we're trying to follow Pope Francis's ideas of evangelization, based mainly on Evangelii Gaudium, Laudato Si, and now Fratelli Tutti. So important. And also Maryknoll is changing as the world changes. And so we're expecting pretty soon Greg McPhee, who was recently ordained this year and will be coming here to Bolivia. And also beside him is John Siumbu, who is our first student who came from Kenya. Maryknoll in the chapter, when I ended on the chapter, or on the council, decided that we would have an experiment of receiving people from countries where we work, if they know us. And so John was the first man to come here. And his style of living in community and family and his ability in languages was really amazing. Also down below here we have 3 men who are now here. Well, no, first 2, Joshua and Charles are seminarians who spent 2 years here and have returned they returned to Nairobi, to Kenya, because they couldn't get visas for the US. And there are 3 men here with me now. Diego Ramirez, who was born in the US, but is also a Mexican citizen, and he's also a medical doctor. Matthew Sim is from Singapore and New Maryknoll in Hong Kong. And Patrick Oko is also from Kenya. And so one of my main jobs is working, I don't call it a job, what I do is work with these young men who have an experience of mission. And it's a time of discernment if this is really what they want to do in their lives. And finally, tomorrow we should be receiving 2 more men, Paul Schultz from the US, who is a brother candidate, and Victor, who is also from Kenya. It's very interesting that we have more vocations now from Africa than we do, and Asia, than we do from the US. This is, I'm here with Joshua, and this is Charles. In March, when we had a very, very strict quarantine, Charles and Matthew, and also brother Ryan, went to a home for elderly. And they stayed in the home, they didn't leave, and they were there for about 4 and 5 months. And then the workers started to come back. And everybody but Charles and some of the sisters had the virus. And many of the elderly people died in the home. But thanks to their presence, they were able to do much better. Also, it's very important to see with Francis, he says that mission is not only the work of priests and sisters. Mission is a call from baptism. So when we're baptized, we receive a call to be disciples of Jesus and also to be missioners for Jesus in a new way of living. And I think we have lost very much the sense of the Gospels, what Jesus did and how he acted, what he had to say, and what he did. And so it's very nice for us to have a group of lay missioners here also in Cochabamba. Well, this is, it's not all work. We had a lot of fun too. This was actually the father of a Franciscan volunteer who came here on St. Patrick's Day. And he even brought his songbook with songs from Ireland. So it's not all work. This is an awful picture, but this is the dream of the people in the parish where I help out, St. Pius X parish. Their idea is to have this type of a church, and that's the way they kind of identify themselves. It's in a poor neighborhood. Actually, the street we live on used to be the prostitution area of the country, of the city. But it's also a place where they have where they sell a lot of automobile parts. We had one priest who went there in his Jeep, and he was buying something, and they stole the hubcap or they stole the tire on the back of his truck. So sometimes the things they sell are not the best. This is Latin America from above, of course. I think this is Lago Titicaca. To the left of Lago Titicaca is Peru. And to the right, all this area more or less is Bolivia. Uh-oh, I want to go back. Anyway, this whole green area is the Amazon basin. And a large part of Bolivia is the Amazon basin. But then also we have one of the highest capital of any country in the world, in La Paz. And it's 11,900 feet. And where I am here in Cochabamba is 8,400 feet. But usually when you think of Bolivia, we think of the mountains, but also a large part of the country is the Amazon. And also we had people participating in the Synod of the Amazon, which took place in Rome. If somebody wants to be present to a people, you have to take into consideration culture and the reality. And also we try to use the methodology of observe, see what's happening, what are the signs of the time, reflection, and then action. And it's not easy because I think a lot of people, when they think of religion, they think of dogma, they think of rules and laws, but they don't necessarily think of what's happening in their reality. And also the cultures change. Bolivia is a country of many different cultures and indigenous peoples. They still maintain, a lot of people maintain their languages. What are the best known languages are the people in the Quechua people, which was the Inca Empire, the Aymara people who live also in the extreme north or in the mountain, in the region areas. And they were here even before the Inca Empire. As you can see, the people still, this is actually what the people call, it's like a parade, but it's to a church down the street from us. And they use their native dress, their cultural expressions, in the music, also in their dance. Also, Bolivia, I think, is the only country in the world which calls itself a multinational country. They say multi-nations, many nations. We're made up of many nations. What are more common is what I mentioned, the Andean region. But in the in the region of the Amazon, there are probably 100 different languages and groups within the whole Amazon area, even more. And so what do we do? One, along with our work with the seminarians and the brother candidates, we assist the communities. It's very important, I think, today that we be able to begin with their life and listen to them and not have a church where only the priests are talking. Also, I'm involved in prison ministry, and you see the children in the prison. In the women's prison, a lot of the women are there with their children when they're, I think, until, I'm not sure exactly what age group, I think probably until they enter grade school. And this are pictures from Christmas celebration last year. This year, I was able to go for the Mass on Christmas Day, but nobody else could go. I was the only one that could enter into prison. The women's prison hasn't had a problem with the virus, but the men's prison, yes, they've had 4 men who have died and 1 guard. This shows the creativity of, this is Marcella with the baby. That's actually her child. He was a little big for a baby recently born, but it worked. And also another woman offered to be Joseph. And they also had dances, and also, because it's a custom in Bolivia to have dancing for the child Jesus. This is the men's prison. One of the sisters who accompanies us also in the women's prison was able to join us. And we had the same celebration in the men's prison. This prison is an old house that was made into a prison for 300 people, 300 men, no children. And we have up to 600 or 800 people in the jail. I was able to go since March, I've only had 2 masses in that jail. One for the Day of the Dead, and they had altars for 4 different men that died of the virus. And the men themselves did some prayers. It was kind of funny to watch them, but they did the Our Father very fast. After school programs are also very important here in Cochabamba. In one of our centers, which is near a Jesuit parish, they have a very big school program for children. Many of the people are people who speak Quechua or Aymara. They're from the mountains, and they very poor, and they work in the marketplace. So the mother and father are in the marketplace all day, and so the children spend a lot of time at the center. And they have a school program, and they also have a lunch program. And one of our seminarians has been working, the one from Singapore, Matthew, has been working with them. Justice and Peace. I also participate in the committee, or I guess it's a conference of religious of Bolivia. And here in Cochabamba, we meet with all the brothers, sisters, and a priest of different religious communities. And we have a Justice and Peace and Integration of Creation program, which is, we've been able, even during this pandemic, we've had the possibility of having a program on Zoom in all of Bolivia with participation, and with them giving videos and what they're doing for the integration of creation in different parts of Bolivia, in the mountains and also in the Amazon. Also, I participate in RUN, which are religious that have participation in the United Nations. When I was in New York, I spent 6 years on the council, and was able to go to the United Nations as a representative of Maryknoll. And I think it's the only way we can really treat a lot of our problems, which are international, is through some type of organization like the United Nations. And I think it needs the support of so many people because it's not easy. The different cultures, the different languages, the different ways of thinking have to be resolved before they can get anything done. We work mainly with, in this group, also with creation, with ecology, but also human rights. I'm showing a slide or a picture of Bella Vista. This is a place where two rivers in the Amazon come together in Bolivia. And unfortunately, it's very close to Brazil. And there are airplanes that come in and land on a field beside the city carrying drugs or looking for drugs. And during the time of the quarantine, a very strict quarantine, the people were really upset because they didn't want anybody coming from outside of their area. They had no way to, they have no hospital, no way to treat people who have COVID-19. And so they also, the sisters there and the priest with the people said, we have to do something about this. So they went and took one of the airplanes and pushed it and put it in the plaza. Now 12 people have death threats from the drug lords. So this is something, there's a network now of all of Latin America and a little bit of Europe and the United States to work with these people and to make sure that they don't carry out these threats. So that's part of what human rights, that's a problem of human rights. Also, the other problem is care for our creation. This is from the house where I live. These are the places where they sell automobile parts. It used to be an area of prostitution, but it's a little better now. But our patio was pretty ugly. It had a lot of junk. You can see the wood and a lot of weeds and rats. So Joshua, who lived here, who had a lot of experience with farming, I think, was able to transform it. And this is something I think is very important, that we can not only talk about these things, changing our way of relating to the earth, but also do it. And so we're trying to develop programs of composting and also for gardens, urban gardens. This is what it looks like now. It's not a very good picture, but you can get an idea. So that's mainly what I have to say.
There was one question, Paul, from your colleague, Leo. Are the evangelicals growing in Bolivia?
It's hard to say. You know, I don't know what, there's definitely a strong presence of evangelicals, but whether they're more than the past, I don't know. I think today we've been trying to work with evangelicals in some of these programs. For example, the week of creation, we try to have participation of people who don't go to the Catholic Church or go to evangelical churches. And there's some openness, but it's a long step. And also I would say the main people who go to the church in the Catholic Church still call the evangelicals sects, you know, that they look down upon them. And I think we can learn from them and be more open to them. And there are also prayer groups here, interreligious prayer groups, you know, Christian groups that pray together with different churches. But the number, probably there's been a big increase in evangelicals or different Protestant groups in all of Latin America.
We found ourselves sharing lifetime experiences and just recognizing that all of us pretty much have the experience of growing up in bubble and having to be the ones to take the initiative to move out of that.
Yeah, pretty much the same thing in our group, just stories of being in maybe the bubble and then being thrust into, actually everybody seemed to have been put into the position of experiencing diversity because of Maryknoll in one way or another. Their career or their vocation put them with Maryknoll, and Maryknoll kind of led the way to teaching diversity. And I think one thing that came out of the conversation loud and clear was that we're not here to offer charity, but we need to enable people to be able to support themselves and have dignity.
We had the opportunity to really very significantly discuss that the challenge is us to meet people at their core of who they really are, that they are made in the image and likeness of God. And they may be very, very different from us, whether it be faith, whether it be political. And our challenge is to go there and to deal with that and to recognize people at their basic foundation.
Yeah, we had a great group. We talked about the importance of doing anti-racism work and becoming aware of what racial justice and racism looks like in our lives, and then also the idea of how are we incorporating the voices of others in the work that we're doing otherwise, whether that be a nonviolent movement or caring for creation or other things like that. And we were just very struck by the great work that you're doing, Father Paul, and everybody there.
I was talking about our parish. We have a Burmese refugee community that we minister in our mission group, and we have a refugee committee, and that's important, I think. We talked about the importance of having Mass in the language of the people, and we talked about the importance of, we are a largely Hispanic community, so we have a lot of Spanish language Masses available to the population. Diverse community because we have military really from all over the world that come here for training. So we're very fortunate in having some pretty good handles on the diversity here. We have the nation's largest Martin Luther King parade on most years. This year it's going to be virtual, obviously. Anyway.
Where are you located?
San Antonio, Texas.
Oh.
And one of our members said that there was a problem because in South Dakota, the problem is we're getting a lot of older people, but we're not getting a lot of the younger people involved in this ministry.
We talked a lot about meeting people where they are, a lot of what Danny was saying, meeting people at their core, listening and being respectful of people and their diversity and what they have to offer, being open, mind, heart, and soul, and that we can rejoice in the commonalities that we have with each other. And then Father Tom Tiscornia mentioned how it's really healthy what Father Paul has, healthy to learn different perspectives, that each one layered on to the next. So prisoner ministry turned into peace movements and so on. So we're really grateful for the experience that you shared, Father Paul.
We looked at several takeaways. One, we looked at the structures that we may be involved in. For example, what are our employment practices, and are we embracing diversity in employment to the extent that we are able to? And then we looked at Maryknoll, and we were very impressed by Father Paul's work with the seminarians, how that certainly is a diverse community in Cochabamba there, and how learning from the seminarians, learning with them, very impressive. And we spoke too about how Maryknoll bringing the global perspective is very helpful to our own culture. And we talked about within the church and how the trouble that we saw within the church, which was kind of brought out so well by James Martin in his article recently in America Magazine, and how the polarization within the church perhaps the lack of respect for different positions within the church contributed to what happened last Wednesday. And we spoke overall about the need for respect, for listening to each other, and also just being grateful for the opportunity to be involved with Maryknoll and work within that particular diverse structure. That is becoming more diverse, and we're grateful for that.
It was a very rich conversation, shared at a deeply kind of personal level about our own faith journeys and how diversity has, deepened our Catholic faith, but also challenged it, where we find ourselves inspired by the people that we encounter who don't share our faith, but who yet draw us closer to God's love. And it can be a challenge, particularly within the institutional church when, our roles call us to respond or to minister to people in certain ways, but our heart draws us in different ways.
We discussed the important role of the laity now in mission and respond to their baptismal call. And we were really impressed with the work that's being done in Bolivia, the variety and the risk-taking and being committed there and care of creation and all that's going on. But I think we said, we would like just more of our laity to become involved in understanding this and participating in these movements.
I didn't treat the political reality of Bolivia, which is very complicated. We now have the Masson government, which is Movement to Socialism, has won the last election after the election before that was called a fraud, and we had a change of government. But I think that the whole reality of the political reality, we as Catholics, as Christians, have to be involved. Anyway, I'm open to any questions. We'll see.
Father Paul, Mike Gable here.
Mike.
Yeah, just curious. Know that the RCA government came into power, and I'm wondering with your social justice work, JNP group that you're working with, are there specific issues that you're working on with this new government? Or
I think the main issue, I think, is that we have the same problem that exists in the United States, where people of different parties do not listen to each other. And they say, well, and they make their decisions on ideological reasons. For example, the group that's against the School of the Americas, they came out very strongly saying it was, I have to say it in Spanish almost, a military coup, which personally, that's not my experience. I mean, what I saw were people on the streets who were just fed up with Evo, who is two things. He is involved in narco trafficking and with drug trafficking, and has also called for an armed revolution, and that is part of his plan. Right now, he has the COVID, so I pray that he gets better, but gets better in the head too.
Thank you.
But very complicated.
There's a question in the chat. What has been the outcome in Bolivia of the Synod for the Amazon?
I think we have a long ways to go. I think that the bishops in Latin America are much more on board with Pope Francis than in the United States. I mean, there's a long process of meetings of bishops which have been waking up to the problems of structure and poverty and response, and also recognizing patriarchy, colonialism, and trying to find a way of clericalism is the other term. I think it's very important. All of this exists, but I think it's, at least within our Maryknoll people, we're very open to working on these levels. Some of the priests are not, others are. And we have two new bishops
auxiliary bishops who are very good. So.
Another question from the chat. What kind of support do you get in protecting those who oppose the drug activity?
Very little. We didn't even get support from the transitory government. I mean, they wrote a letter, you know, explaining their position, what was the problem. It's mainly, there's a priest who's 90, I think he's 92 or 93, and the sister who got stuck in Bella Vista because of the virus, she couldn't leave. But they're the ones that kind of participated. And they said that when the priest dies, we're going to kill these people. And we're still working on that. I mean, we even on the level of the United Nations and human rights offices. But one of the problems is who can solve this? I mean, the police are corrupt. And we don't want to call for a military coup, that's for sure. It's difficult. That is what we're doing now is trying to keep in contact with the people. And we actually have a meeting tonight. So, thanks to Zoom. I also lived, I don't know, people in Ciudad Juarez, and 2 people were killed, no more. 2 times people were shot right outside our door. So there's no doubt that the drug traffickers have no heart and no soul.
This is from Susan Gunn. Do you see the concept of buen vivir, good living, as something we Americans would benefit from learning from Bolivians?
Of course, yes. Yes, buen vivir. It's not actually, that was one of the problems also with Evo when he was president, that he talked a lot about buen vivir, but he also expanded the oil, taking out more oil, also destroying the jungle area in the Amazon. And then also just putting a road through one of the national parks so they can take it over with coca growing. So a lot of times it's just talk, it's not reality. And I think it's a challenge for all of us. It's interesting with people wearing masks, you know, they call them barbijos here, but cover your beard. And one indigenous woman said, Quechua woman said, don't call it social distancing. Call it protect your neighbor. I think that's an example of buen vivir.
From Marie Wren, you didn't say anything about the Maryknoll Language and Cultural Institute. I know Steve Judd's home in the U.S. Will it continue? Is the Maryknoll House in Cochabamba staying open?
Well, the Maryknoll House is staying open. That's where I am now. Actually, the center was closed for several different reasons, economic reasons, the whole COVID. In one sense, but it's closed now. But we still have contact with the teachers, and we're looking for ways that they can continue to form their own empresa, that's what I call it, their own group, and then continue with, because we have 2 men coming tomorrow, and they will help them study Spanish. And then also Alejandro Marina is who is a Maryknoll priest from Argentina, is working with a group of us who are looking ways that mission formation continue, but not in the same way. So it's not completely closed.
This is from Paul Borg. What would you say is the influence of the indigenous religions on the culture and people of Bolivia?
And I have to say that 500 years of Catholicism did not help our understanding of these people. I think we have to recognize that as a problem, because it's very difficult to understand their cultural and also religious ways of expression, and a lot of their expressions have been lost. And young people do not learn the language many times. For example, there are a couple of chapels where the people speak Quechua, but the young people don't speak Quechua. So it's very hard. At the same time, I think that I ask in a group of a Christian community, how many of you celebrate the Koa? Koa is a celebration of the Pachamama, the earth god, or the earth. They don't call it a god, they call it the earth, Pachamama. It's our mother, the Mother Earth. And only one woman, who definitely was indigenous, raised her hand. She says, I celebrate every year. And talking with another person, she said, oh, we shouldn't do that because it confuses people. So there's still not an openness. At the same time, I think there are places. For example, there's one Jesuit church that Tom knows very well, that they celebrate a very important feast for the indigenous people. And the people come in from the campo in droves. A lot of people come in and participate, and they do their rituals.
From Mary Baird.
It's not dead, but it's suffering.
From Mary Baird, how can you get people to be open to discuss politics without heat and anger? Good luck with that question, Paul.
Yes, am I supposed to answer that? Thank you for the question. We have a community meeting. We meet on Zoom, and one of the men is a lawyer. He was They call it. He was a defender of the people, and here in Cochabamba, and is very strong. His heart is with Mas, to the movement of socialism. And there's another woman who's also talks very much, who supported one of the people that was really looking for a coup and was using violence against people in Mas, or the former party, the party of Evo. So we haven't succeeded that those two people talk to each other yet. So I think that if we can find a way that they can get together, know each other, and share common realities, little by little, we might be able to talk. But I think it's very difficult. Also, we have in our house where I live, a man from Venezuela. And he said, oh, Biden is a socialist. And he likes Trump because he's a capitalist. So I talked to him.
Last question about what is the vaccine status in Bolivia?
Oh, I just wrote to a nurse at Maryknoll who the vaccine is, they're talking about buying the vaccine from Russia. And our guy from Venezuela says that people in Brazil who have gotten that vaccine have died. So I don't know. That might be his ideological reason, but I'm not sure. But so far, I haven't heard of people being vaccinated. And I don't think they've ordered enough for all the people. It's like 80% of the people. Also, I should say too, that this virus has revealed tremendous poverty. I know of two situations. One, a young man, I think a teenager, hung himself because he didn't want to be a burden for his family. And also a girl who took rat poisoning because of the poverty of her family and her father, who is sick. Unfortunately, she's still alive, but I don't know interiorly, psychologically, I think she's still suffering. And that's just an example. This is the reality we're having. A lot of people are asking for money. And if somebody has this virus and goes to the hospital, you have to give them $30,000 Bolivian money. And how much would that be? Divided by 7. So the situation here is very bad. The poverty, the people out of work, like the U.S., I guess. And this is what we all have in common, is this virus. And we have caused it in a way.
Anna asked, in the midst of all this struggle, where are you finding Christ?
Oh,
It's a good question.
yeah, I think I really find what gives me more energy and the presence of God are the reflections we have in community. Both the Maryknoll community and also the small community we have on Zoom in Pius X. Fortunately, as Maryknoll, we can get together every month. There's not a problem. I mean, we also have Mass here every day. And so this is a place, I think in our communities, we can find Jesus. And we don't always agree with everything. So that's good too.
We thank you, Paul, for what you're doing, and we appreciate that.
I'm also grateful for the people who participate, knowing several of you, and then you have the patience to hear this. But it's good to see, and thank you for what you're doing. That's good.
Yes.
We all are called to be disciples.
Yes. Amen. Amen to that.